Hi everybody, it's Claire from Stoke Haunted. I thought I'd do a little piece to explain how I got involved with the whole paranormal field. Initially, as I was the middle child, my mum and my sister used to go and see a Julian Crusoe who's based locally, and they used to swear by everything that this reading said. To a certain point I was interested. I listened to the tapes back and you could always place something to what they'd been told. Some of the things, however, were pretty damn accurate. Down to when my sister would conceive, to do with weddings, to do with specific losses of certain people within the family. But that's kind of much later on. My first ever experience, I still kind of don't know which way to go with it. I'm certain of what I saw, but I'm not certain about why I saw it. When I was little, when I was much younger, between the ages of 4 and 7, I used to live with my biological dad. I used to sleep in a cabin bed, and often we were sent to bed during daylight hours, even when it was winter. Now, I remember it being one particular winter evening, and I know it was winter because there was carol singing outside. I was listening to these carol singers, and because of how I was treated as a child, you didn't look through the curtains, you didn't peek, you didn't speak, you didn't do anything, you just lay there and accepted what was going on around you. And back in the 80s, I remember really very heavy velvet brown curtains in my bedroom, and literally no light could get through. I used to spend a lot of my evenings, as darkness descended, I used to spend a lot of the evenings counting and watching the car lights that kind of go, as the light goes through the curtains from a passing car light, it kind of goes across one wall, goes across the other wall, and then the third wall. So I was kind of used to that scenario. However, when these carol singers had been gone for must have been gone for a good hour, I saw the room was still semi-dark, but what I saw, it scared me enough that I dived under my covers and I didn't get back out until the following morning. Literally out of the wall in front of me, bearing in mind I'm in a cabin bed, so I'm quite high up, out of the wall directly in front of me, just gradually, bit by bit, kind of emerged the silhouette of, it looked like a male figure, but it only looked 2D. It went across my panelled door, which was right at the bottom of my bed, and I'm used to, when the car lights go over the walls, I was used to it distorting over the panels. So I just thought at first that this was just another run-of-the-mill thing that I watch when I'm trying to go to sleep. But as the shadow went over the door, it didn't distort one bit. So I carried on watching it, and it must have been about 6 foot high, I'd guess. I walked across this wall, never distorting as it went over the radiator or anything else within those areas. And then instead of going up the wall where my sister's bed was, it just gradually walked through the wall and disappeared again, piece by piece, literally as if it was going through the wall. Now, my biological dad, there's no way that you go up to him and say, look, I've just seen this. So for many years I kept it to myself, but I was petrified. Moving on a bit, quite a way as it goes, my mum's dad took unexpectedly ill. He had a lot of health problems as it was, but he took on kind of, he was a big man, so he didn't really fold under any kind of pressure or illness. So knowing that he was in hospital, we just knew it was serious. I remember my mum coming back one morning in tears because she'd literally just said goodbye to her dad and he'd passed away while she was there. Now that's when funny things began to happen. First of all, it's almost as if my granddad must have known that he was going to pass away. He had a mobility car and he had a bay directly outside of his house. Now my auntie lived on the same cul-de-sac across the way. And she had a drive, and the day before my granddad actually had his heart attack, he took his car across to their drive and cleaned it out as if he was doing a regular valet. And my auntie's partner at the time offered to take the car back out the drive and park it in the bay, and my granddad blatantly refused to have it moved, says doesn't need to be moved, there's no point, is kind of what he said. Now, my granddad was near on 7 foot tall and he was really, really stocky build. And my nan is 5 foot and a fag end probably, and kind of slim and delicate. Now, family used to have some sort of policy that they used to pay off on a weekly or monthly basis, I'm not quite sure. Somebody would come to the house, they'd present the books for updating, and the person would go away again. Now my granddad always kept these books right on the very top of the kitchen cabinets, excuse me, along with foil. My nan, after he passed away, got a knock on the door from whichever broker it was, and they weren't aware of my granddad's death. My nan went to fetch the books, still upset, but she went to fetch the books, climbed on a chair I think she said, and the books were nowhere to be found. And not only that, but everything that was ever kept on the top of those cupboards was not there. So she hunted around the kitchen a bit and she found them in one of the lowest cupboards going. So my mum and my nan kind of, well, maybe Grandad knew that it was his time, that he was going to go, so he wanted to make these preparations. But it's all well and good, it might have just been that he was cleaning the cupboards, who knows. However, where things get a little bit strange is after he died, new things became apparent to me. My granddad used to have a big telly and he was a real big lover of the horses and the horse racing. And he used to sit in his big chair right opposite his big telly, and he'd have hearing aid in, but his hearing aid wasn't like what you get now. There was a box behind the telly that his hearing aid linked into so that he could hear the telly. And before he died, months before he died, he was told that he had to give up smoking. That was one of his kind of pleasures, and if you can call it that, but he really enjoyed a good cigarette. Now, most of his sons and daughters, because they're quite a large family, smoked. So as soon as he stopped smoking or tried to stop smoking, nobody was allowed to smoke in their house again. So after he died, they were all their brothers and sisters and my nan were gathered in the living room, and my mum must have called my nan out to the kitchen or something like that. Either way, whoever was there kind of all dwindled and they went into the kitchen or did whatever they were doing. One of my uncles went back into the living room to collect his packet of cigarettes and his lighter, which he'd left on the sofa. They weren't there. Everybody looked high and low, and there was the whole thing of "you've nicked my cigarettes" kind of thing going on because they all smoked. And to cut a long story short, after hours of hunting, they actually found both the cigarette case, the box, and the lighter on top of my granddad's hearing aid box, which was at the back of the telly. Whether or not it was some kind of prank, I don't know, but decades on, nobody's admitting to it. And my nan and my mum are still holding fast to the point that, well, your granddad was not meant to be smoking, so he probably hid them so that his son couldn't smoke. Now, I've never had cause to doubt either my nan or my mum, and I always wondered when they were on about seeing Julian Crusoe and my sister, how much of it was to be believed, how much of it was fabricated, how much was down to interpretation. Now, I've been offered many times to go and see Julian Crusoe or somebody like that, and always I've kind of gone, oh well, yeah, it'd be really good, but I'm the kind of person that would rather not know if something was going to happen to me. It kind of takes the control away from it all, I guess. So I've always bowed out of it, just in case I'm told something really horrible, or, you know, well, I can't get a read on you, and that means you're not going to be here in 6 months' time, you know. But it's always been at the back of my mind, and I've always battled between, well, do you believe it, or on the logical side, you know that it's a lot of it's done through reading body language and things like that. The one thing that I can't explain is, again, to this day, my mum and my nana swear on their own lives that this happened. Now, I'd stopped in my nan's house before now, and they'd often given their bed up for me and my sister, and they'd sleep somewhere else while we stayed over. In their bedrooms, they used to have the big old wardrobes, ones with the key locks, like the walnut ones. Now, I think my mum said it was a couple of days before the funeral of my granddad. She went to stop with my nan because she was beside herself. Obviously, I think I would be as well. Now, they had to pick out the suit that my granddad was going to be buried in. So they went into this walnut wardrobe, pulled out the suit, decided what they were going to dress him in to be buried in. And then after it was all done, and they had a heart-to-heart and a few sobs and things, Mum says, right, well, we know where it is now, we'll put it in the wardrobe because it's late, and we'll take it tomorrow. So they did that, and my mum decided to stay with my nan that night, because it was obviously very sore, and she was in a mess. So my mum actually decided to stay in my nan's bed with my nan, because obviously going to bed after so long with nobody in the bed when you're used to it it's kind of empty feeling. They turned the light off and got in bed, and this is how they're telling it to me, and seconds later this walnut wardrobe door come flying open. So they get back up again after a bit of a shock, and they think, oh, we just haven't closed the door properly, it's kind of come open because we didn't shut it correctly. So they close the wardrobe again, get back into bed, turn the light off again and rest, and the same thing happens. Now by this point they're quite spooked, which I can understand, because they know the first time could have been that they didn't close it properly, but the second time my mum, who did it herself, actually knew that she'd closed the door and she'd checked that she closed it. So they went back and my mum was like, calm down, calm down. And she actually put, because you used to have a lock on the bottom of the door and one on the bottom of the door on the inside, one at the top of the door on the inside, and then a key lock on the other door. My mum made sure that all these locks were done, and she turned the key, checked the door, pulled the key out, got back in bed, turned the lights off and things. And moments later, the door come flying open again. So I think if I'd have been there, I probably would have screamed and refused to stay in the house. But for whatever reason, my mum went over, she closed the door, and she said out loud, well, this is what she's telling me, she said out loud, was, Dad, we know it's you, we know that you're still here, but right now you're frightening Mum, can you please stop it? So locking the door once more, they got back in bed, and there was no more occurrences of it at all. How much of that is down to grief? Who knows? Never had any reason to doubt what they've said before, but a certain part of me wants to eliminate any possibility of there being human interference, regular things that have caused the problem. Personally, despite what my mum and sister think, I'm not so sure whether there are ghosts or spirits or things like that, but there's a part of me that really clings to the fact that there is something there. There's got to be something there, because we're always learning. There's always things that we have to grow, to get new technology to understand, and I think we're kind of at that learning stage. Now, whether or not I find that in my lifetime, I don't know, but I'm firmly on I need physical proof of something happening. There has to be a reason behind it. How I got with Stoke Haunted was generally a fluke. What it was is I'd been doing a few low budget horrors with a couple of production teams in Leek, and I'd lived on set for 2 weeks solid for one film and then a week for another, and during this time lots and lots of people had reported that things had gone missing, that they'd heard funny breathing, and the most sturdy of people that I'd met there, that nothing could frighten them, even they caved on the last couple of days, saying that somebody had followed them into the toilet when nobody was around. And we were filming at sort of 3 in the morning, so there's no visitors, there's no kind of, with it being a pub, there's no patrons, there was nobody around. Again, is it down to suggestion and the fact that we were filming a horror film based around the paranormal? That could have something to do with it. Could it be down to tiredness, because we were filming late nights, early mornings? Who knows? But this place had the atmosphere, it had the look, it had the atmosphere, and it had the history. So how I got about with finding Stoke Haunted was I was arranging a charity event for the Douglas Macmillan with a colleague of mine, and I thought, right, okay, we'll do an auction, we'll do things like that, we'll do general disco stuff, and then an added extra, because I knew the people that own the place, we would do a ghost hunt on a charity donation basis. The only problem was I didn't know any paranormal investigators. Anyway, it was a long time in the making, and I remember speaking to my uncle, and he said, oh, my best man from years and years ago runs a paranormal group. Maybe, you should find him. And so I went to have a look. I couldn't find this man, which turned out to be Andy. And so my uncle actually gave me some sort of link to the Stoke Haunted page and Andy. He says, just check with him and say I sent you. So anyway, I got in touch with Andy. We had a few messages backwards and forwards, like you do, and it was arranged that I would go across to where Andy and his mum live and chat to them about what it was exactly I was expecting their team to do. Daunted by the fact that I hadn't met this person before now and I was going to the house was an understatement. I turned up with my pad of paper like you do, went in, Sarah, Andy and his mum were there, but it was a nice friendly atmosphere. I sort of went in very businesslike and said, I'm doing a charity event and I would really like it if you could come and do the investigation for us, lead it on a charity basis. Now I know that Andy now doesn't really do that many charity events because of the amount of work that's involved. But that particular point, I don't know what swayed him, but he says, yeah, what is it exactly you want me to do? So I went through what my plans were for the evening, and then what I would like them to do afterwards. Bless them, they even offered, they even paid their ticket price despite them doing the investigation. And strangely, our paths had crossed, although we'd not met before. Our paths had crossed through somebody I was filming with before, and my name had been mentioned. And he says, well, we're doing this for you. I'd really like it if you wanted to do some writing for the team, follow them round and just write down what you think and basically what they do. Because, was currently unpublished, buying for a few children's things that had been put on a friend's website. And I said, well, yeah. And we knew straight away that it was more of a business relationship. It was, they were doing something for me, and so I was doing something for them. Over time though, it got less of a business arrangement. It became more of a desire to do it. I was enjoying the challenge of going into somewhere and not knowing what was going to happen, documenting it and then making a full report at the end of it. It was a challenge, and I seem to work better under challenging circumstances, to actually go in with not knowing what I'm going to get, and then giving myself the time to write it all up for them. And as I said, the relationship of business kind of morphed into I liked doing this challenge. Every weekend or every investigation was totally different from the last. Even if we went back to the same venue more than once, it was always different. So basically, in the end, they ended up doing the charity investigation, which I was very grateful for. And I ended up staying with the team, and now I'm the resident writer and one of the producers. And I have to say, I thoroughly enjoy being into the nitty-gritty of what goes on prior to an investigation and immediately afterwards. It's not just a case of rocking up somewhere, doing a few camera moves, doing a few experiments, going home and you don't think about it again. An evening takes weeks in the planning. Sometimes it's very hard work, it really is, but at the end of the day, if it's a good night, then there's satisfaction in the end. As to my stance regarding the paranormal, I'm still very much on the sidelines, I think. I think I need tangible evidence to say that something is of a paranormal nature. That we have seen a few things, haven't been able to reason them or logic them away. Don't know how they happened, don't know why they happened, but they would normally be, when I first started, that kind of thing, seeing something I can't explain happening in front of me on a screen, I thought would be enough. I thought that I'd think, right, yeah, okay, so there is existence, my answer's there, I don't need to do this anymore. But it seems that as we get those answers, the goalposts move and you've got even more questions. It's, can we replicate it? Can we make things happen the way we want them to, when we want them to? Can we converse with whatever it is that is doing what they're doing, whether it be through electronic, whether it be visual disturbances, whether it be sound, anything really? Can we make it happen again? And can we measure it? Now, I know that paranormal investigating is especially in the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire areas, it is a cutthroat business. And when I say business, I don't mean that the Stoke Haunted team are taking any kind of funds for this, because they're not. I myself did book a lot of the venues, and if there is a cost to a venue, then we split it evenly. We don't make a profit. But as a whole, there is a lot of paranormal investigating going on. How and why people feel the need to belittle other teams, or to step over teams, or just to be generally nasty about anything that they do is beyond me. As Andy has always said, there's no friends when it comes to paranormal, or that's how he perceives it. But of late, the Stoke Haunted team have become part of a Paranormal Unity page. This helps to a degree because we can bat ideas around between each other, find new techniques, find new venues, and generally call on each other if we're short on numbers. But there are still tens, maybe hundreds of teams that will quickly stab you in the back and not do that. And I don't see the point, to be honest. If we're all after the same thing and it's not for financial gain, then why would you need to do that? It's at first having things copied, having techniques or new experiments that we do being used by others and claiming that they're the first to do it was annoying. I grant you it was annoying, because it's like we do all the work to make this kind of experiment happen, to iron out any creases that there might be in the design flaws. To have somebody else just take it straight from you and claim that they are the first ones to do it was horrible. It was horrible. But because I've been with the team now for just over 18 months and it happens on a regular basis, I've kind of taken up the stance that, well, actually it's really nice. It's really nice that somebody would want to take your work and to replicate it, whether they claim they're the first people to do it or not. You know in your heart of hearts that it's you that's done it. So it's kind of somebody's thinking our work is good enough even when they slate it. Will I continue with the Stoke Haunted team? I can see myself being in it for the long haul, to be honest. As I said, there's a lot more to it. A lot of the nights you're not going to get anything, but there's always something to do, there's always something to try. So it's never boring, and we learn. If something doesn't happen, then we try something else, and it is a learning curve. Now, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I get a lot of stick off it from other people, especially on my husband's side. It's oh, I guess, ghosties, and oh, you're nuts, and why would you do this and why would you do that? And it did get me down quite a lot to start with, because I felt like I had to justify what I'm doing. As time's gone on, however, I don't feel like I need to justify it now. They can have their hobbies, I can have mine. And to be perfectly honest, I've gone from just having pen and paper and following them round, to broadening my skills to camera work, interviewing techniques, doing full reports, organising. It's been, if I want to learn, the opportunities are there. It's not something that is a vicious circle. So I embrace Stoke Haunted for giving me them opportunities. Now, Stoke Haunted would very much like your likes, rates and subscribes, which you can do down the bottom, and help us support other paranormal teams that are in the Unity. It is it's going to be a never-ending road of more questions than answers, and while you're helping us by viewing what we do, we will continue to try and find those answers for you. So after a long rant, this is me. Hope I don't disappoint. So please, share, like, subscribe and rate, and we'll catch you soon. Enjoy, and I hope you get the answers that you want. Bye.